And welcome to Conservatives Talk.
And this week we're going to cover the actual, Republican primary and, give you a breakdown on it. We're also going to talk about, are Democrats really voting in Republican primaries and voting Democrat at the end? We're also going to tell you what happens next. So stay tuned.
And welcome back to Conservatives Talk. My name's Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we always like to start each show by saying, whenever you see any of our content like this, please hit the like button and the share button as well. That really helps be able to spread all of our content out there. And hit subscribe just so you can stay up to date and stay notified on everything that we produce and that we put out there. And please go to our website that you see on the screen right there. And right there below us, it's conservativestalk.org, and hit the donate or sponsor tab in the top right hand corner or the bottom right hand corner now, and help us out. Every little bit goes an incredibly long way. We don't really sink a lot of money into anything outside of this actual production of this and promoting the show. We actually put out a cardboard cutout box with a hole, with a hole slit in top with a magic marker. We wrote, "Keep Conservatives Talk alive."
And 100% of everything is reinvested back into the show.
Yes.
So I think it's great that we have so many sponsors right now, and we're looking for even more to continue producing this program.
Yeah, and really spreading it out and getting the word out and getting it everywhere and making sure that Republicans stay in power in Georgia.
Absolutely. And here's my favorite part. We are now heading to the general now that the primary is over, and we are 166 days away from our general election here in Georgia. So everybody get ready, because we're going to beat Stacey Abrams once again.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm excited about it.
That's always my favorite part. So let's jump right into it. I think the title of this actually explains it quite frankly.
Yeah.
This section of it. WTF happened on Tuesday. I'll be honest with you. I'm still trying to pick up my jaw off the ground.
Honestly,
some of these things.
I kind of saw it happen. I knew. Here's how I pictured it.
Somebody needs to hire Jamie.
Well, here's the thing. Here's how I pictured it. I pictured it as we were going to have a mixed slate, because
yes, absolutely.
I felt that was the only way that Georgia and as a Republican Party we could really move forward. Because don't get me wrong, I think we all truly believe in America first. We all truly believe in President Trump, and Georgia will carry President Trump if he decides to run again in 2024.
Oh, he's going to.
And I think that, but we wholeheartedly, as a state, support Governor Brian Kemp, and I think it really showed out on Tuesday how well everyone supported him.
I will be honest, that was one of the ones that really my jaw hit the ground with. I knew that I had the feeling that he was going to go into this without a runoff. I had the gut reaction that was going to happen. Although I did not know, or I did not comprehend the fact that he was going to win so handedly with this.
I was thinking like 63%, but him to come out of this with 70-some% of the vote.
In all honesty, I was thinking like mid to low 50s.
Like,
that's where my mind was at, mid to low 50s. But for him to walk off, was it 73.7%? Excuse my language, but damn.
Like, I mean, look.
Especially with a powerhouse. Look, in all honesty, Senator Perdue is a powerhouse candidate to run against.
We can't take that away from him.
David absolutely
is a good
not.
Person. He is a good candidate. I just feel that this was the wrong race. Georgia has supported Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp has stood up for us when nobody else would.
And he stood up against the president for us during the lockdowns.
Yep. He stood up against the president. He stood up against the Democrat. He literally stood up against the entire country and reopened the state when nobody else would. Like, we wholeheartedly support Brian Kemp in a second term.
We were the last to shut down and the first to reopen.
Yep. So I mean,
So
like, that just brings us into it. Let's get into it. Like, I'm excited. I'm ready to
so
go.
all right. Let's talk about the ones that everybody saw coming. Herschel,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, look, and here's the thing: we had a lot of great candidates in that race too. Gary Black is outstanding. He was outstanding.
He was an outstanding ag commissioner.
He was outstanding agriculture commissioner.
Wrong choice to run for Senate, though.
Well, and I think Gary would have been fine if Herschel hadn't come into the race late.
Well,
because
yeah.
like, one thing about Gary is Gary knows how to campaign, and he is for the people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So sorry to cut you off on that, but the first time that I ever heard Gary actually speak, it was at the Cobb County. I think it was 2019. It was at the Cobb County 4th of July GOP banquet they have there, and all the other candidates got up on the stage, got behind the microphone, and we're talking and all this other stuff. Gary didn't use a microphone. He got off the stage, walked into the middle of the room, and just spoke that way. Blew my mind the fact that he did that, and it resounded as well as it did. I mean, it was incredible.
See, here's the thing about Gary that most people don't know. He's a people person.
Yes.
He's a farmer. He people don't realize that, like, even in, what was it?
Tyler Harper's got some big shoes to fill.
He does, but I think Tyler can fill them. Gary got more votes than the governor last time because Gary he's so personable that he even pulled a lot of Democrats away from Fulton County to vote for him, which is major because they ain't got no agriculture in Fulton County. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have any agriculture in Fulton County.
Well, they've got their little backyard community gardens.
Yeah, okay.
And believe it or not, those are still regulated by the state.
They are. And but I think we'll be hearing more from Gary Black. At least I hope we will. But
I do too.
Herschel
was a
Walker,
resounding victory.
He showed a lot of people a lot of things, and we're excited. I'm excited to see him, stand behind him, and for him to be our next senator.
I'm looking forward to it because if anybody has the chops to be able to beat Warnock, it's going to be him.
Yep.
Regardless of how much Warnock spends or how much he raises or anything like that, you're still trying to fight against Georgia's darling football player in a sense.
The Herschel Walker.
That's a high hurdle to jump for anybody.
Yep.
So the next one, of course, anybody saw, and this one's a little bit close to home for us, and it's because it's our representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene. That was, that was just as much of a huge victory as anything else because the press has come out and just tried to do their best to obliterate her. And to walk away with almost 70% of the overall vote with a cadre of primary opponents. I mean, it was the closest one was less than 15%.
Yeah. And here's my thing about that one. Say whatever you want to about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but
and many people have.
Marjorie is Northwest Georgia.
Yes, she is the embodiment.
You can say whatever you want to, and I had the honor of speaking at her victory party, and in that, Northwest Georgia is unique in Georgia. I think the only thing that can be even compared is South Georgia, because in this, I will count the whole Northwest region, so you got about 15, 16 counties in the Northwest regional area. And pretty much if you were involved somewhat in your high school or your sports network or anything like that, we all pretty much know each other.
Yes.
Like all, and like I said, all the way down from Dade County to even parts of Cobb, which is now part of the district, you've at least heard of a lot of the names that you're still hearing now. And that is just because Northwest Georgia is so close.
Yes.
We've always been close to each other. And so to see that we're all still on the same page is kind of incredible, right? Because a lot of people didn't predict this, but remember now, you had the same margin of victory that Brian Kemp had, that Marjorie Taylor Greene had. So we all understand where we all are. We all understand what's going on, and we're all on the same page still. I think that's impactful.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that one. Although one of the races we're about to get into a little bit, our county went almost 2-1 in favor of somebody that was 100% opposed to everything that Marjorie would have stood for. So it's who knows? Well, actually, I have my, and we'll get into that one in a little bit as far as what happened with that one. But all right, so we have the two that we know what happened with. So let's jump into the ones that, quite frankly, and we've covered a couple of them that nobody really saw coming. Of course, we knew that Kemp was going to win this one. Just nobody knew the margin that he was going to win. But holy hell!
Oh yeah, that's big.
Burt Jones that we've had on the show here. Great guy, great candidate. I'm really looking forward to what he's going to do, and he's going to win he's won the nomination according to the numbers at the moment. It's
an interesting concept. So in Georgia, for those of you who don't
by
know,
the skin of the teeth on that one.
In Georgia, if you don't know, you have to get 51% not to go in.
Well, 50% plus one vote.
Yeah.
The absolute majority.
Yeah, and right now Burt is sitting at 50.08, which is like this odd number for people that are like, oh, but still has a shot. But anyone who saw the episode with Burt that we had when we had Burt on the show knows that this is a hardworking man.
Yes.
I mean, Burt came to Floyd County twice and then did our show from the road just to make sure that he continued to get the message out. And, I think Butch is a great guy, but just being honest, like I think he came to Northwest Georgia like maybe once.
Well, it was the women's Republican, the Floyd County Women's Republican luncheon. And
I know twice. Take that. I think he went to Fanning County too, but Burt made sure that he had a constant presence here, which is something that, from a statewide race, just to be honest, in Northwest Georgia, we don't see that a lot.
That's very true.
That means a lot, and
especially because we are the Red Wall.
And that goes a long way when you have someone who's not from this region spend so much time in our region just to try to get to know the people and get to know their needs.
Oh, yeah. And it's encouraging to see that because they're beginning to notice that you have to have Northwest Georgia in order to carry.
Well, and that's the thing, Northwest Georgia is a place
we are the conservative bastion.
We're in a place to where like it's a show me part of the state to where like we don't, take for whatever you can say whatever you want to, right? We have different factions, right?
Yes.
You have
very much so.
you have the traditional Republican Party, you have GRA, you have, leadership, you have all these other different factions inside the state of Georgia, but Northwest Georgia, we don't care. Like if you spend time with us and you are a viable candidate and you actually come up here and you get to know the people, that's who we're going to vote for. And down like across the board, we continue to show that. I think it's a perfect example when you look at the fact that Herschel Walker is a whole nother boat.
Yeah, because everybody, even elementary school kids know his name.
Yep, everyone is number 34 is an outlier. But when you look at the time that, of course, our Congresswoman Marjorie has spent, when you look at the time that, even the governor has spent here, or he's made sure that,
he's had adequate representation.
Burt the same way, as well as some of these other candidates who, across the board, we can go down the list. Like Tyler Harper, who's going to be our agricultural commissioner representative, has flown a helicopter in to make sure that he gets to Northwest Georgia. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that we're talking about because everyone wants to make we want to make sure that we know who's going to represent us.
And anybody that we mention on the show, keep in mind the fact that you're still going to be required to come in August.
In August,
yeah, for the rally.
Oh yeah, sometimes I forget about that. But Rome,
you got to put your other hat on for a minute.
In Rome, we have an August rally, August 20th, and a lot of these people they're
going to be required.
They've already like committed, because one thing that Northwest Georgia does.
Raffensperger's coming to it. That's an interesting one.
I think so. Let's get into that one.
Yeah, let's get into that one. So we all know Raffensperger was the one of the major reasons behind the 2020 steal, as far as allowing a lot of things to move forward that should never have come out of it. Some of the illegalities that should never have happened because of the way our Constitution is set up. I can see you biting your tongue over there, but we all know it's a fact in a sense. The consent agreement. That should never have been able to go forward. However, he is the nominee now. He is the Republican nominee. And because he is the Republican nominee, we have to rally behind him.
So I want to first mention this, okay? I question Brad. I question Brad a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I have never questioned, okay, is let me share this very quick story. When we were together, we went to Justin and I went to what should have been Senator Perdue and Senator Loeffler's victory campaign and the runoff in January.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that, without a shadow of a doubt, completely impressed me with Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, I will say that. Yeah.
In the midst of all of this, while all of this is going on, this man walked into the VIP with everyone who he knew at the moment hated his guts by himself and went to shake everyone's hand. That shows a lot of moxie.
I'll be honest with you, I was in the room recruiting people to run against him.
Like that shows a lot of moxie. And so I will say this, to play devil's advocate, because he is our nominee.
Yes.
To play devil's advocate, I think.
Well, there is no devil's advocate to play on this. He's our nominee. That's all we got to rally behind.
Not that part. Not that part. What I'm saying is, with everything that happened, right? I'm starting to see that there was more. I don't want to say divide, but there was more of a disagreement between the Republicans who vote in suburban areas versus the Republicans who vote in rural areas, as far as what happened in 2020. And I will say that Brad, being more of a city boy, he had his reserves. But I will say this, that as we have moved forward, he has been open, he has been honest, and he's been listening to a lot of the concerns, in his office as well, to a lot of the concerns that we have had in rural Georgia about some of the situations that have been going on with our elections.
So is it that, or the fact that his challengers just ran and not the challenger themselves, but their consultants, their DC-based consultants, just put up a piss poor performance?
Well, I think there's some of that too.
Because I'll be honest with you, this should never have gone. This should be in a runoff. Had they actually put up an effort and actually done something, got on the ground, pushed forward, made the effort, and actually got him and got Jody Heiss. Had they gotten Jody Heiss in front of people, this would have made a significant difference. But no, they wanted to sit back on their hind end and just ride the wave of what they thought was the Raffensperger just disenfranchisement in a sense. I blame his consultants on this one.
The strategy was major, right? The strategy was major role in it.
Piss poor.
I will say this one thing that Brad did do well that a lot of people didn't necessarily notice. So Brad's ads, okay, because very few people saw them, but they were strategically placed and strategically done. He found one person in all 159 counties who was an influential, wealthy, powerful person who everyone, regardless of what you thought about him, paid attention to. And he got them to come out and make a video that said they support Brad Raffensperger. That in itself, when you look at, we can talk about, PACs versus grassroots. We can talk about, boots on the ground versus influential, like that. That's a whole separate conversation, because when you look at effectiveness, I will say that Brad hit the most effective way, quickly and swiftly, once we came into January versus what he was doing previously.
Yeah. And so make no mistake, when I say that Heiss's campaign was ran piss poorly, I am by no means saying anything about his volunteers, about his actual on the ground staff. It was all the consultants that were up there that did all of this. That's what hit hard. That's what lost this primary.
his Jody. Let me explain.
It was
Jo-
great,
Jody's
and he's got some of the greatest people out
some
there.
of the greatest people out there.
Mhm.
He put together a very concise, very
'Cause
good
I'll be
local
honest with
team.
Raffensperger didn't have any of
He
that.
didn't have a local team.
Mm-mm.
He didn't have a local team.
Nope.
Jody pulled some of the best people I've ever met on campaign trail, who I've known for years.
Mhm.
Pulled them together, got him behind them, and Joe's a fairly good guy himself. And to put it all together, I agree with you. We should have been in a runoff in that area,
Mhm.
but again, it goes back to that was a sneaky, precise, very calculated campaign, and it's very interesting how we made in the Secretary of State's race without a runoff.
Well, that's also something else we're going to jump into in a little bit. So the next one that we have on the list is, of course, Carr won. Chris Carr, pretty handily.
Yeah.
Not much of a surprise.
Well, yeah. I'm a big
John
supporter of
Gordon's
Chris.
a great, he's a very nice guy.
He's
I
a
just
very nice
don't
guy.
think that he got in a little bit too
I think
late.
that's where we end it.
Yeah, he got in. He got in a little too late, and there was not enough momentum that was built up to be able to do this one.
And I have my reserves about Mr. Gordon.
Anyway, moving forward, Commissioner King won.
I think John King's a great guy.
John's a great guy. He really is. So I specifically remember when Biden surrendered Afghanistan for everything like that. John King was reaching out to us, or was reaching out and was trying to take every avenue possible that he could to help Americans that were still left behind, because he's a general in the Georgia National Guard and has been deployed there and knows a lot of people there. And he was met with so much resistance that it was not even funny, but he was finally able to get through. And thankfully, he was able to get some of that help that he was so desperately trying to get to some of the Americans that were still overseas. Just that fact alone is amazing.
Yeah.
So
look, Patrick, I got the pleasure of meeting Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
I think Patrick Wood's a great guy. I think it was the wrong race because
should have stayed in 10th. Although he's still awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what we've seen in our insurance commissioner over the last couple of years, John King. I'm gonna do that again. John King is the right person at the right time, and that appointment and a full term with him, I think, is going to be one of the greatest things that we see for the state of Georgia. As far as here you have a former police chief. Here you have someone who is a committed civil servant who is dedicated to his work, and he's going to clean up that office.
Yes. Yeah, especially what we had in there to begin with.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that.
Yeah. So, and of course, the next one was school superintendent.
That kind of shocked me.
Really?
It did.
A little bit for me, but not quite as much as what all the other ones were. I kind of had a feeling that Woods was going to move forward on it, but I didn't think it was going to be such the discrepancy there.
Yeah.
Again, he won with 72.6% of the vote.
Yeah. That's major. I think
that's very resounding.
Yeah. The suburban Republicans are playing a large part in this, and I'm glad that they're standing up because they have been silent for a while. We don't hear much from them, but it's good to see that they still are holding true to the values. And I think that was a large push into why you're seeing, let's take this for an example. You have Richard Wood versus John Barge, who holds a special place in my heart. He was my Sunday school teacher for a while. That in itself is rural versus suburban. That's just outright what it is.
Yes. So, and the last one that we have on the list is Thompson over Cohen. And I will say, as much as it's going to cause me heartburn,
that's my boy.
I did not vote for him this time around. I didn't vote for. I didn't vote for the top two contenders.
You gotta let it go.
I will get behind him, and I will place my vote for them. I will vote for Thompson come November, despite how much heartburn, despite how much just vomit that I'm going to have to withhold from having to do it. But I'm going to do it.
Valid point. Bruce. I know
that he's vomit worthy. I agree with you.
I know that. For those of you who don't know, Justin and Bruce has some
yes
personal things.
Oh yeah,
but
big time.
Bruce is a great friend of mine, and
I am so sorry.
I am
Makes me
glad
rethink
that
some
he made
things.
it. And you know what? I just want to make this known too. What Justin is hitting on right now, I think, is the key to the
Yes.
entire thing.
Mhm.
Is that, you know, whatever issue you have, whatever your concern is, these are our nominees, and we have to stand behind them. Because if you don't stand behind our nominees and you don't get out and vote in November,
Imagine a Democrat labor commissioner.
exactly.
See, I mean, you had the minimum wage come into effect. Yeah, I guess the new $15 minimum wage come into effect across the state. You would have just these rampant unions that are going to be taking over the entire state. No, I will swallow back everything that I have for that man and still place my vote for him, just simply because I do not want to see anything like that happen.
Because November is not personal. November is
No.
about your freedoms. It's about
Yes.
your rights. It's
Mhm.
about staying up for the Republican and voting for them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And something else that we kind of jumped over and is very significant to note, especially with Herschel's race. Herschel won by 450,000 more Republican votes than were even cast in the Democrat senatorial election.
So, do I put my tinfoil hat on now or later? Because that kind of rolls into our next topic. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on.
Well, stole it from me.
You can share.
Oh well, they're gonna read everybody. I don't know. Go ahead.
Because look,
you might need it.
I have a conspiracy about this, but we'll go.
So yeah, so for the next topic is, you know, we said that we were going to do the tinfoil hats. We have one so far.
Because clearly, like,
and this kind of rolls. Oh no! You gotta put it on. If not, I'm doing it. So and this kind of plays into effect, especially when we look at one of the races that we're going to talk about. So the question is it, let's see, what is it? Is it really a conspiracy that Democrats affected the Republican primaries? What do you think?
So this gets really questionable, right? Because I think it's two-parted. Do I think they affected it? No. Do I think they played a role in it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, whatever part of the state you may not see this in, but you can notice that, you know, 2%, 3% of the Republicans who vote as Republicans in the primaries turn around and vote as Democrats in the general.
So the number you're referring to is only early voting, not in person. So that 2 to 3% could expand upwards of anywhere to 10%.
Up to 10, yeah.
Now, look at the Secretary of State's race. What is the percentage that he's winning by? If you drop that number down just by the percentage of the Democrats that jumped into it. Exactly.
We're gonna run off.
So I did the numbers. I crunched them quite thoroughly, actually. I went back as far as 2016 and did several comparisons on it. So there were, what was it? It was 29,864 Democrats who early voted in the 2020 Democrat primary. Those almost 30,000 Democrat primary voters voted in or early voted in the 2020 Republican primary. So that number and where we're getting to 3% is taking that number and dividing by the overall turnout for the gubernatorial race, and that gives us 3%.
Yeah.
So and that was, I think it was almost 50,000 voters more than what was in the Secretary of State's race.
Yeah.
So it could potentially be even higher than what we saw than this actual 2 to 3%. So yeah, I mean, do we know exactly why these Democrats are crossing lines and voting in these primaries? No. It could be to affect that. It could be the fact that they're seeing all of these Democrat issues, these these issues that are literally affecting their wallets and everyday accounts, and they're coming out and they're trying to vote for Republicans to get they could be true-hearted Republican or Democrats that are changing parties because of
they're yellow bellies. And
exactly.
Since I'm not wearing the hat this time, I will play devil's advocate again today. And I will say this. I think part of the reason is because Georgia's been red for so long that a lot of, I will say, true Democrats, the only way that they're going to vote for the Republican that they like is to only vote in the primary, because across the state, a lot of our elections are decided at the primary vote. Because you won't have a Democratic contender in some of these races. You will only have, Republicans going against Republicans. So I think a lot of them say, you know what, I will cast my vote for whoever in November, but in, May, I will cast my vote for the Republican that I like. That being said, though, I think that the infiltration is serious, because that goes to the same token of people voting for Republicans that they don't like to bring down their margins.
Yes, and I think that that's significant to note, because in 2018, the last gubernatorial cycle around, only 7,424 Democrats who voted in the previous or 7,424 Democrat voters voted in the 2020 the 2022 primary. So 7,424 early Democrat primary voters. Those voters are now voting in this 2020 or the 2022 Republican primary. Look at the difference between the two.
Yeah, and how you can get that number is,
and there were messages that were being sent around saying, "Hey, look, if you don't want these people to ultimately potentially to win these seats, Stacey, our governor's office is not being challenged. We're going to get a radical liberal for lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and every other line item. Warnock did not have a serious challenge. So the two biggest seats there, two main contending seats, there were really no challenges. So crossovers, yeah, I mean, that's an effective strategy. And in all honesty, had these crossovers not happened, we may be in a runoff at Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, and I do want to say this, like, so everybody knows that you can get all these numbers yourself right off the Secretary of State's office. If you go to the Secretary of State's website, you can see how many people voted in absentee ballots.
Yep. It's all public.
All of it public information. There's a way of getting all of it publicly through the Secretary of State's office, and then all we are doing is comparing the numbers between election cycles. You can't really get general as much information as much as you can.
Just secret ballot.
Yeah, as much as you can primary, because we vote in partisan primaries. It makes a little bit of a difference.
But you're giving away my secrets, man.
Well, look, before we go a little bit deeper into that, I want to go back to a couple of these races. There are two races that are actually being contested that are going to play a major role inside the state, and I think we need to talk about them.
All right, let's do
it. The first one is the 6th. Let's talk about Georgia's 6th district.
Okay, yes. All right.
You got Dr. McCormick versus Jake Evans. That one's going to be.
It's going to be interesting.
I think that's going to be really interesting. I think.
Do you think Jake's going to see a rally, and essentially what we see with just about every runoff, the second place always comes out victorious?
You're reading my mind, because let me tell you something. Jake Evans is a great guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Rich
is a bit of a dick.
Those of you who have been in Republican politics for a little while may remember him as the bow tie kid. But he is true and true someone who embodies the values of the party. And I think
not just the party, but conservatism in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, they go hand in hand, right? Like I will say this to some people, who they're hand in hand.
Anyway,
they're hand in hand.
And of course,
I think Dr. McCormick is a great guy.
He's a dick.
I think he's a great guy.
He's a dick.
But I think it's time for Jake to shine.
Oh yeah, and I think he's going to with that one.
The next one gives me so much heartburn.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna flip roles for a second. Not really flip roles, because I think we're on the same page as this one. But let's talk about the 10th.
Yes, the 10th. So the ones that so these two races that we're talking about are both open seats here in Georgia, and they're both Republican strongholds. So the likelihood of a Democrat getting elected to those is about as likely as a Democrat getting elected here in the 14th district. So just not going to happen. So the 10th, although I say that, and now I have to retract that statement because in the 10th, there is a chance that a Democrat may get elected to that seat, and that Democrat being Vernon Jones.
Yeah, like, so first off, I did not expect this to go to a runoff. I thought Mike Collins was just going to run away with this.
I figured it was going to a runoff, although I did not expect Vernon to be in the runoff.
Let me tell you something. If you want to know who the real Vernon Jones is, go to therealvernonjones.com and find out who the real Vernon Jones is. Realvernonjones.com. If you want to know, please, all of my friends, all of our listeners in the 10th district, if you want to know who the real Vernon Jones
or
is,
across the state or country, just simply because do not donate to this charlatan.
Go to therealvernonjones.com.
Yeah. So
I can't go too deep into it because then we'll get sued.
Not to give him too much name idea. But the man who won the primary as far as the highest vote get, Mike Collins. Mike's a great guy, very great. He's
a good conservative.
Absolutely. So he owns a trucking company, which is something that we desperately need people in DC to really have an understanding with. I actually had a call with someone today where they were talking about the new CDL law, national law that was passed, or the federal law that was passed this past February, that now requires even local people who drive these, like for instance, dump trucks, to be required to have a federally licensed CDL. Our county here is taking such a massive hit employment-wise because they're not able to hire people with these CDLs because there's not that many of them. But yet you go driving down the road, and those massive 40-foot recreational RVs and everything. You realize all you have to drive this is a regular driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a CDL.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're hauling 20 cars or those big cars, so for instance, one of the racing car trailers, that you have that you'll see some of the dirt track drivers have their trailers they drive the cars into. You don't have to have a CDL to drive those either, but you have to have one to drive a dump truck.
I think it's very interesting the way that things are going as far as trucking. I talked to
which is a reason why Mike needs to get that job.
So two very close people to me. One is a guy I grew up with my entire life, has a CDLs and drives across country.
Mm-hmm.
3, actually. Another one is a close friend of ours. His dad drives CDLs. He actually quit his computer's job to go and drive a truck because he felt that was more valuable. And we know a few more people, personally, who work in logistics for these logistical companies. Another one is very close friend of mine who runs his own logistics company, who, a lot of people remember his dad as a famous wrestler. But the reality is that this is a job that a lot of people who think are, going by the wayside because you got, Tesla and all these other companies trying out autonomous vehicles and autonomous, trucks and things like that. That's 20 years down the road,
if not more.
Because you're talking about a big rig that's going down a mile. Like, let me tell you something. These people have to be able to calculate how to manage their brakes and what gear to be in going at a certain percentage down a mountain, and then not be able to run off. Like, we don't see it a lot in Georgia, but if you go to the state of Tennessee, they have to tell you on a sign, it says what percentage that the decline is, because they have to be able to adjust. This isn't some, just rinky-dink job as like the media and the left tries to portray it as. Like, this is something that is major, that is vital to our society.
100% vital. I mean, it's our main artery.
Once it comes to the port, like, that's how we have to get all of our goods. If you live inland, trucking is a major industry, and it's going to remain a major industry. And we need someone who understands that, because the people who are in DC and, a lot of these inner cities don't understand that. And they just create routes to get around it so they don't have to look at it or deal with extra congestion. But these things are vital vital to our society.
I'll admit I've yelled at several traveling up and down the interstate, but at the same time, I mean, who hasn't?
Yeah,
But
that's
at
just
the same
simple
time,
road rage.
Well, very, very significant on my part. Like I might die from a stroke in one of these days, or just an aneurysm just popping in my head. But anyway, they are one of the most essential jobs that we have in the entire country.
Yep,
hands down. And
Hands
the fact
down.
that Mike owns a company that is specifically about that, or is his company, just shows the importance of the reason why he needs to be in that job. Vernon, I mean, what's he done
He's a career
outside of
politician. He's a career Democrat
he's a
politician.
career criminal? But it's for the voters of the 10th to decide.
Yep.
And Mike, you're more than welcome to come on the show at any point in time. Just let us know, and we'll get you on and we'll get you out there.
Love to have you.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the next topic.
What we were talking about.
Yeah. So what's happening next?
So I'm just looking at my list right here. We've already mentioned that we really do got to make sure that everybody comes out. You all have to come out.
Yes.
Again.
If you don't show up, anything that happens afterwards is your fault.
I will just bluntly say it. If you don't show up like you all did in January of 2021.
Well, there's no you all. It's we all. We all are at fault for that.
We are because we could have done better to try to get.
Yes, everybody could have.
And that's where we are with the show. You know what I mean? We put out here, we get out here every week to make sure that we continue to tell you all information so that you get something reliable other than just, because look, I look at this all the time because again, hats and all. I love that that's there.
We're gonna have another one next time.
People get confused sometimes with satire pages, get confused with looking at misinformation online. And we want to help decipher some of that off of what is an agenda versus what is just phony versus, what is actually true, trying to be true to conservative messaging.
Yep.
And so with that being said, there are just some things that we just have to disprove on both sides, whether you wholeheartedly believe in, some things that are put out there on either side of the aisle. And that's why we started this show, was because we felt that a lot of that played a role in why people didn't show up for the runoff in 2021.
Democrats and MAGA hats.
Yep.
And which is which is one of the reasons why, as we mentioned in our last show, that we are not currently putting out a piece of information that we are waiting to get the actual documentation back from in regard to this election. From what we have been told, it's pretty. It would cause a lot of heartburn with a lot of people, and it causes me heartburn. But we are not willing to put that out there until we're able to verify that this is actually happening and going on.
And that's the thing. I got to know.
Yes, I got to know too.
We both wear a lot of different hats, and it's not that some of this information that we hear is not that I don't believe it or I strongly
would
believe
put it past anybody
or
that
wouldn't put it past anybody, or I don't believe that the people who are in this position that we don't agree with politically would do these things. It's just some things that are just like, I have to know what is on paper before I say anything else about it. Because it's one thing for, gossip goes around all the time.
Yes.
What is hardcore evidence? What can I find documentation on? You can find anything and everything that you want to in a Photoshop Facebook, or, people can believe anything that you see on Facebook. But what are the legal documents that the representatives of these offices who hold the integrity of these things up, what are they saying and what are they thinking? Once I get that documentation, then we'll be able to move forward.
Yeah, well, I guess not really what they're saying or what they're thinking, but more so of what actual documentation is out there for us to then take and to really form an idea or to really form what we are seeing moving forward with that. Because with elected officials, outside of a very select handful of them, I don't trust any of them as far as I can throw them. I've got a broken back, so I can't throw a lot of them too very far.
It's not that for me. Because here's the thing, right? Until the judge decides, anything, I'm a bureaucrat. I'm a bureaucrat. And until a judge decides anything, the reality is that anything done by one individual, whatever their role is an opinionated piece or their interpretation.
Oh, yes. You know
what I mean?
Well, until I see the actual documents
I need
behind
to
it
see the
and what's
documentation.
going on with it.
I need to see the code that is cited. I need to see what reference point they're coming from. And then if I dispute that, then I need to be able to take that to someone else who can dispute that on our behalf, whether that be an attorney, whether that be a judge, whether that be a representative, whoever, because those are the lawmakers, those are the law deciders. Because whatever you think about attorneys, they're the law deciders.
Well, the law are yours, and the judges are the deciders, or the people are the deciders.
Which is very true. I will just say that judges are lawyers too. So,
well, in some cases, but
so
probate judges, no.
This is true. Anyway,
we actually have one that's kind of almost local to this area that has no legal experience.
I'm definitely not getting to that right now. But the
great guy. He's done a hell of a job.
The whole point of this is that when November rolls around, regardless of whatever your opinion is of the candidate, we have to make sure that we stand tall on our values, because come November, it's us versus them.
Oh yeah, it's survival of the fittest.
That's it.
And if you do not want to have just the socialist control, or if you don't want to have the future quote unquote president of Earth coming in and being our president,
our czar.
Yeah, that's literally what it would be. She would literally come in and just
they would name her the czar, Georgia.
Executive order after executive order after executive order. She would be as bad as Joe Biden is. Actually, I think she would be a lot worse than Joe Biden is with executive orders.
And look, let me tell y'all something. I'm exhausted. I know this guy over here is exhausted, because we want to make sure we put in the work, and we know a lot of people who listen to our show have put in work over the last week to make sure that good Republicans,
a hell of a job, by the way,
and even good Republicans who did not win their campaign got out there, and we fought the fight as hard as we could to make sure that we had the best representation for the state. And now we have to stand behind those people and get them confirmed and elected in November.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of which, another one that just jumped to mind. I can't believe I've been talking about this guy all day today, and I can't believe it slipped my mind to mention it earlier. Colton Moore won. Our first guest on the show.
Moore won.
Exactly.
That's impressive. That's a tough victory. Look, because I know that other campaign very well. The campaign manager
says a lot.
Look, say whatever you want to. Okay.
I know him well too. I'm just saying.
That campaign manager, I grew up with him. We come from the same cloth. And he's a great guy. I mean, you can say whatever you want to. Spencer's a great guy.
He is.
He's a great guy.
We've just been on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Campaigns,
yes.
But I mean, but all around, he is one of the best campaign managers in Northwest Georgia. And
well, obviously not, but
he is. He just,
obviously not. But it's kind of 0-2
Colton
here recently.
Colton, he had a big one though. Colton did a great job campaigning.
He did a hell of a job. I mean, he had a golf cart that he hauled around and got out in neighborhoods and drove the golf cart around, door knocking himself with his team.
That's the key, man.
Oh yeah,
that's always the key. Whenever you can get a candidate out there, and the candidate actually is the one who's knocking on doors, putting outside, that tells you something.
Especially with an open seat.
Look,
absolutely.
I'll tell you this. Everybody wonders how Chuck Huffsteller can continue to kick ass like he does. Excuse my language. That's it.
Well, and again, we don't know the ends of that election yet.
This is true, but let me tell you something. Look, everyone who knows me knows that me and Chuck have had a riff for a while, but I will tell you this: there are very few people who work as hard as Chuck Huffsteller.
Oh, I know.
Very few people who work as hard as Chuck.
He was our primary sponsor with the piece of legislation trying to get through when I was lobbying at the state legislature.
And
he's a hell of a worker. There's no question about it.
Chuck have had conversations over the last couple of weeks, and we've mended a lot of fences. But I'll tell you this, especially in that guy's first campaign, he had a very, very tough competitor who's a very well-known local guy.
Bit of a dick.
And He
It's a family trait.
Yeah, you know, the more and more I look back on it, I'm glad Chuck won that one.
Did you imagine?
No, God no. Um, anyway, but Chuck got out there and walked the entire district, and similar fashion what he did this time. Chuck got out there. There's a reason why Chuck Hufstetler won 80% of Floyd County, 70% of Gordon County, 50% of Bartow County. He got out there and worked. Same way as a Colton Moore. If you get out there and you do the work, you get out there and people see that you're actually the candidate who's going knocking on their door, the world is yours.
Or yeah, and you don't exactly. I mean, you don't specifically have to do just the door knocking. I mean, one of the effective things that we really saw, if you're able to do it well, and you have the ability to really get it out there a lot. I mean, even sign wave. I mean, that's just being seen. The fact that you are out there with your name held up, and that you are willing to put your name out there and hold it up around with other people, and be able to show folks that you are willing and able to take this stand, and you're willing and able to work, but people are going to start trusting that you're actually maybe
Absolutely.
be willing to do it. I
Well,
mean, granted, we've been tricked a couple of times with that, but still.
Well, I will say this though. I will say this too. That's one thing that we're blessed with in Northwest Georgia, is that we got a lot
damn
of
hard workers.
We got a lot of candidates who get out there and work, and we got a lot of representatives who get out there and work their butts off. We've seen, I mean, every candidate I've seen, except for a handful who we pretty much knew what the results were going to be at the end of the day. You saw them at every event. You saw them in multiple counties that they represented at every event, making sure that their name was heard and known. And we are blessed that the majority of our candidates and the majority and all of our representatives here are hard workers. And we know that at the end of the day, they're going to fight for what's best. We may not agree with it, but we know that that they made the best decision that they could.
Oh, I'll leave that alone. But so specifically here in Northwest Georgia, when we're talking about some of the state races, for the Republican side, and I guess even for the Democrat side, the very few Democrats representatives that we have in Northwest Georgia.
Oh yeah, I'm just kidding.
Cobb County. Yeah. But yeah, they don't even have Republican challengers. However, there are a few of our state House representatives, specifically down in the Paulding County area and the Haralson County area, that do have Democrat challengers. So make sure that if you are, if you're in those areas, that you are getting out and that you are encouraging not just your immediate family, but everybody that you encounter to get out to vote, especially if they're Republican. If they're Democrat, tell them that the election's 2 days later.
Especially Haralson County. Look, Haralson County, I feel, is going to be under attack soon by the Democrats, primarily because it is so. For those you don't know, Haralson County was redistricted out of the 14th district, so it's not a part of the stronghold of the conservative thing. And then you have a lot of people from Paulding County, a lot of that wave that realized that they couldn't change Paulding County or moving towards Haralson. And we got to make sure that Haralson stands strong on its conservative values. I got a lot of friends out there.
The state House representative down there, Tyler Paul Smith, he's about as steadfast and rock solid as they come.
Oh yeah, I mean, we need everybody to show up. We need to meet some Hill boys. We need everybody out in Haralson County needs to show up. I don't know what he's talking about there. Everybody in Haralson County needs to show up and vote Republican.
Absolutely. And then you've got Joseph Gutlett, who's being challenged down there. You've got Martin Montahan. Those are the main three that are really being challenged. We also have two new state House representatives that are filling open seats. So we have Mitchell Horner.
Yep, Mitchell's a great guy
out of Murray County.
I'm really excited.
I'm looking forward to speaking with him tomorrow. And then we have Kimberly New down in Paulding County. I have not had the opportunity yet to speak with her. I'm really looking forward to it. I just got her contact information here recently, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if there's anything that we can do to help her out to really make sure that she's as strong and stand up for what or to make sure that she gets into that office.
Yeah.
So anything, and Kimberly, if you're watching this or if any of your supporters are watching this, please reach out to us. We would love to have you to come on the show. We would love to be able to host you or anything along that to help get the
Absolutely.
message out. Same with Joseph and Martin, we and Tyler, all of y'all. We would love to be able to help y'all out in any way that we can.
And one last thing I want to mention too is, I had decided a long time ago that I'd never want to be in Carroll County again. But Carroll County has truly impressed me with a lot of strong representations they've had over the last couple of years, and a lot of great Republicans have ran for office or have been elected to office, from county commission all the way up. And I think that's going to be another big area that we need to make sure, and because that's still Northwest Georgia. Carrollton County and Carrollton need to really hold hard and stand tall on their conservative values.
Oh yeah, we've got to make sure that we keep every Republican seat that we have in the state, not just the governor's seat, not just our federal seats, but the state house seats and the local representative seats, like the county commissions. The city's not really running this time, but the county commissions, those are, quite frankly, the most important out there.
Yeah,
because they're the ones that affect you the most directly.
Yep.
So, as always, we always like to close out the show and then everything out by saying, if you see any of our content out there, make sure that you hit the like button, and as well as the share, and that really allows us to be able to really expand and put our message out there more. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to hear us to speak about. I mean, if you would even be interested in coming on the show,
Yeah.
I would love to have just
absolutely
guest folks come on this. I mean, we can start taking calls here soon.
Yeah, that's what we may need to do. We need to probably do something where we can take calls from people one weekend or something.
Like it. Sounds good. And we can really expand and move forward with that one. I think that's a great idea with that.
Because we'd like to hear from you all. Like, your comments are great.
Mm-hmm.
We love all of our sponsors again.
Mm-hmm.
And
every comment and like that you put on there actually ranks us higher on the on people's feeds. So by commenting and hitting like, you're actually allowing for us to be seen by more people because we get higher up in the feed.
And you're still helping us with our messaging.
Absolutely. So also anywhere any platform that you run across that you see us, that we're on, and that you see our show on, via Facebook, Twitter, YouTube,
we're starting to get a big Rumble population.
Exactly.
Too.
It's starting to grow a little bit. And then we're on Truth Social as well.
Yep.
We actually need to ramp that up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Telegram, the whole 9 yards. We really need to start. They're being posted on there, but we really need to start paying more attention to it. Or even on Spotify. You can actually find us at Conservatives Talk on Spotify.
We have a very big sponsor of ours too, a very good friend who told us that he deliberately waits to listen to our show, and he will either listen to it on Spotify or watch it later on, and that's the
driving
way
to and from work.
Yep, that's the way that he gets through his day. And so, Chris, thank you for that. That really means a lot to us.
Absolutely.
And we want to thank all of our major sponsors as well.
And if you'd like to become a sponsor, go to the website that you see on the screen right there and hit the sponsor tab in the upper right hand corner or the lower right hand corner, or even just on the main tab. It just says sponsor. We literally have made it as easy as we possibly can to help out with that, because every dollar that comes into this really helps us be able to create more content and really be able to push it out more. We were at a meeting today, and like I was saying earlier, I literally took a small cardboard box, taped up the outside of it, took my knife, cut out a little hole on the top of it, and wrote, "Keep Conservatives Talk Alive," and just left it on the table. And people came up and helped us out because they actually believe in the message that we're putting out and that we're spreading out there, because then they see that it's resounding.
We're very grateful for that, as
Absolutely.
well as, 100% of everything is reinvested. It doesn't go into mine and Justin's pocket. This is how we produce.
Nope.
This is how we, those of you who've been through us beginning, this is how we continue to upgrade our studio. This is how we get brand new mics. This is how we continue to produce great content. And we want to thank you
get on the road
wholeheartedly for it.
Absolutely. And again,
this is Jamie.
Well, got to tell them about the reminders.
Oh, almost forgot my favorite part. How do I almost forget my favorite part?
Soon I'm working with people.
166 days until we beat Stacey Abrams.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. As always, this is Justin.
Chop on, because this is Jamie. Go Brian Kemp. I had to get that in there. Go Brian Kemp.